Today's presenter is Jonathan Nelson. He's a business application consultant for us at Algorithm, and he's also a certified specialist in Acumatica's distribution edition. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the presentation. Jonathan, take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Acumatica, as you can see on my screen. I'm going to start with a little bit of a high-level navigation and just kind of show you some of the basic functions of Acumatica in case you haven't seen it before, and then we'll dive down into some of the specifics as far as what capabilities are available in the distribution module and what applications that includes. So as you can see right here, we are on a dashboard, and the dashboard is specific to users, so you can create a dashboard for the users and set that up as their default screen when they log in. So for instance, this one would be representative of a salesperson, and you can control what these boxes show. You can drill down on these boxes so that you can show additional details. All of this is definable, and you can control what they see and how they see it. You can color code these boxes as well. Those are all based on different requirements and definitions as far as filters are concerned. So it allows you to control what the users see and deliver very good content to people so that they can take action on that. Some of the really nice features of Acumatica that I haven't seen in other systems is the search capability. I can type in items, and it shows me menu items that have items in there. I can go to transactions and profiles. I can go to help articles about items. So it's an extremely dynamic search capability. A lot of people tend to not even navigate using the menu system. They just type into the search to go to where they want to go. Now, with that said, the menu system is also very good. You can create favorites. I can create a favorite simply by clicking the star next to any icon, and that will instantly add it to my favorites, so that when I click on my favorites, I have access to those various options. When I click into inventory, for instance, I see all of the menu options that have been made available to me based on security. I can also show the full menu or the quick menu. That full menu and quick menu are controlled by the gear, so I can go up here and select the items that are added to my quick menu, and I can choose the items that I use on a regular basis. So the interface is extremely customizable by the user to make the options that they use most frequently instantly available and accessible for them. You can also see that I have this left panel, so the modules that I access I can have available there. So if production orders is something that I want to see over there, I can click on the pin and pin production orders to my left panel. So I can control what is viewed here or what isn't viewed here, for instance. If bill of material is not something that I use, I can take that off of my left-hand menu. So favorites and then being able to turn on what my quick menu is and what it isn't. I can always reset that to a default as well. So extremely dynamic in how it allows end users to develop the interface to be exactly what they need, and it doesn't require IT to come down to their desk and help them figure out how they want to look at things on their screen. So for the purposes of what we're going to be looking at today, I wanted to start with a warehouse manager dashboard. That warehouse manager dashboard has quite a bit of information on it as far as on-time shipping ratios, goods to put away, pending transfers, orders to ship. I can drill down into these. So I see that this one is yellow, which means that I have orders that are potentially late to ship. I can drill down on specific orders. For instance, if I drill down on 4437, I can see the details of that order. When I'm drilled down on this, I can see that I can go in and do actions on this order. I can create a shipment and ship this order. I could copy this order. I can print the order straight out of here. So if I click on print the order, So for instance, if I see that it's late and that I need to send it to somebody, or a customer is asking me about this particular order, I have the capability to run the report and then click the send button, and it brings that up in a predefined email. This text is something that can be defined so that it is the text that you want it to be, and it automatically attaches that document to this particular email, and it takes the default contact for that particular customer. So I can very easily send a copy of this sales order to a customer if they would like to have that information. So it's a completely integrated system that allows you to click, drill down, and send information to customers and other people within your business very smoothly and easily. So if I move on and go to my inventory, inventory is where we're going to start. Items are kind of a key element of any distribution system, and how I manage those items, whether I'm selling those items to a customer or purchasing those items, this would be the main place that I would go to define how I want to look at things. Up here, I can go ahead and show that I want physical count sheets and display that configuration. It allows me to control what options I see here. You have different transaction types, whether they be receipts, issues, adjustments, transfers. These are specific to inventory. So I can go in and do an inventory receipt. Typically, a receipt would occur through a purchase order. I would buy something and I would receive that inventory into the system. Or if I was using the production elements of the software, I would report production. And when I report a production, it would receive a finished good into the system. That would be an inventory receipt transaction. An inventory receipt transaction that I would do just in inventory means that I just found inventory out in my warehouse. I didn't necessarily buy it or make it. The same thing goes with issues. Typically, an inventory issue would occur when I am issuing raw materials to a production order or when I am issuing materials to a sales order. So the flow of inventory in and out of my system normally would occur through the other applications, whether it be the purchase order module, the sales order module, or a production order module. But I also have the capability to do manual receipts or manual issues of inventory. If I identify that I have scrap, I can do inventory adjustments, and I can also do inventory transfers through the inventory module. So there are quite a few different methods for getting inventory in and out of the system, whether they be manually or through the applications they're designed. So I can also go to my preferences, and I can turn on ABC codes. And in some other systems that I've seen, ABC codes are very nice for doing cycle counting. I have the capability to define what those ABC codes are as far as velocity are concerned or value. So I can define my ABC codes as high value items or high velocity items, and I can count those high velocity items more frequently. In a lot of systems that I've seen, you have to go in and manually control what those ABC codes are and update them. So you would have to create a report, run a report that would then tell you what how frequently these items are used, and then go into those items and manually adjust them as you go. It's very nice within Acumatica in that I can go in and update those ABC codes. So I can pick a warehouse and go into, say, retail, and then pick a period. I see that I have a current ABC code and I have a projected ABC code. So if I decide that I agree with this ABC code based on my velocity, that the velocity for these items has changed, I can click process and it will update my current ABC code to equal those. I can also go and make those ABC codes fixed. So the system is looking at what the velocity of those items are and is allowing you to automatically go in and update that so that you have the capability to now run a cycle count code or a cycle count for your inventory based on those ABC codes, which gives you strong control over the inventory. So if I go back to my main screen, you see that I have stock items and non-stock items. We're going to start with stock items. So a stock item is an item that you control and that you track the inventory. So this is a stocked and controlled item. I want to know how much of this I have on hand, and how often I use it, and what my on orders amounts are. So all of those various elements of an item. I want to show you the strength of some of the capabilities within just filtering and looking for items within the system. You'll notice that I have another search window over here to the right. I can type in hollow. This is a contains, so it shows me all of the items that have hollow in the description. You'll see that I can type in other words, and it will bring them up. Anytime you can look down into any of the descriptions and pretty much type in anything, and it brings in a contains and allows you to filter down to those items. Now, there may be circumstances where you have items that you look up on a regular basis, and you want to be able to break those out. So you have this filter icon here. I can go in and I can create a filter, and I can, for instance, make that filter be regular so that I can just drill down on that every time. So hollow, for instance, I can type in hollow. I can say that anywhere where my item is equal to hollow, I want to see that as a filter. And then if I apply that, I see that I have hollow here, and it didn't add it for me. That's what I want. Love it when a plan comes together. So I can save that filter now that I created it, and it adds it up here to the top. So I can see all records, and I can see hollow. I can add multiple filters up there, so I can create another new filter. You have to click the right things or it doesn't work correctly. Obviously, you can see that I have greater than, equal than, starts with, contains. So there's a lot of strength in the way that that particular search works and the way that you can create the filters. You can also create multiple level filters. Actually, don't want all of that. I just want Astron. And I can save that filter as well. And it will add that filter to the top. So now if I want to go to these different filters, I just have to click on these tops. So it makes it very dynamic in that I don't have to constantly go search for the same things over and over again. I have the capability to drill down into that and change them and then make them fixed so that I don't have to go look those things up every time. So if you have product categories or if you have a customer or you have specific information that's in that item description, it allows you to display these stock items very dynamically. When you drill down into a specific item, for instance, we're going to use the powerade item, you can see that I have quite a bit of information on this screen. I have an inventory ID, I have an item status, and I have description. Inventory ID is a 30-character field. So I can create an inventory ID up to 30 characters. Now, with that said, there are controls. So, for instance, on this particular item, I can only create a 10-character item number. So that inventory ID is limited to 10 characters. That's controlled by something called segmented keys. So I can go to my segmented keys, into my menu items, and I can drill down into my inventory segmented key. And in that inventory segmented key, you see that I have that controlled to a length of 10. I have a max length of 30, but I set for my particular item number, I don't want anybody to create an item number that's greater than 10 characters. And I want that left aligned. So you can see that there are quite a few segmented keys. So each one of these elements is a definable key element, whether it be customer, employee, vendor, salesperson. Obviously, we're talking about inventory, so we focused on the inventory ID. But it allows you to show those definitions and then control the length of those fields. The nice thing about it being a web browser is I can just click back. I don't have to navigate back to my inventory. The back arrow does work, and it takes you back to where you were. So I have multiple tabs across the top here. On my general settings, I have my item defaults. A lot of the item defaults and the way that information gets populated into these items can be auto-populated based on setting up an item class. So I have an item class, and this particular item class is food. Based on looking at this, I can see that I also have a subclass, which is this package foods. If I want to go look at the details of that, I have an edit button here. So I can click on this edit button, and it will take me into my item classes. And you can see that I have the capability to have an item class tree, and that I can have a food item class. Some people call item class product category, so this would be a product category and a subcategory, or item class and subclass. So I can see that I have food items and that I have packaged foods. So the powerade is considered a packaged food, and within that I can control whether or not that's a stock item. I can allow negative quantities or not allow negative quantities based on the item class. And then these are defaults. So this posting class, the lot serial class, the default warehouse, all of these different variables come from that item class. So it allows me to create a default setup for that particular item class. So when I go in to create a new item and I put that item class in, it automatically populates the valuation method, tax category, posting class, lot serial class, unit of measure, etc. for me, so that I don't have to create that every time. Now, while it goes ahead and creates that for me as a default function, I do have the capability to go in and change these. So I can create an item class. The item class and the subclass can drive information into my item setup, but then I can go in and change those for specific items as needed. My valuation method can be controlled by item, but typically you either have a standard costing method, an average costing method, or FIFO. Very rarely do you set up items that are managed differently. So this particular item is an average costed item. I can set up tax categories. It's either taxable typically or non-taxable. I have posting classes. So a posting class will drive into general ledgers. So that controls my accounts and what accounts information flows through. Obviously, you have some items. You may have different product categories, and those product categories you want to flow through different GL accounts so that when you look at your general ledger and run your trial balance, that you can identify where you're profitable and where you're not profitable based on product categories. And those general ledger accounts are what allow you to drive that information through the system. There are some very nice capabilities when it comes to lot numbers and serial numbers. Some other systems that I have seen in the past will allow you to have a lot number that gets created when an item is either created or received into your system. And there are some limitations to that, that it could be a sequential numeric with a static portion. They limit the lot number to a certain number of characters, typically around 12 to 15. And there are a lot more capabilities with the serial lot creation within Acumatica. I can have multiple types of lot classes. I have class IDs. And then within that definition, I can have different methods for how those lot numbers are used. I have an assignment method. So I don't have to assign a lot number to an item when I receive it. I can assign a lot number when I use it. And that lot number can be dynamically created based on information. I can auto-generate that. I can define how I want that auto-generated, or I can have that manually created. So I can manually create lot numbers, or I can have them auto-generated. I can define when received or when used from an assignment method, and I have an issue method control as well. So I can issue lot numbers based on expiration, a user enterable, sequential, FIFO, or LIFO. So my controls from a lot serial class perspective are very finite and allow me a lot of control. I I have a country of origin, I have default warehouses, and then I have my default issue from. So for a retail item, we're going to want to be stored in my retail warehouse. But if I'm issuing or receiving, it's going to default when I run those processes. It will default to the storage warehouse for me. I have a base unit of measure, so every item has a base unit of measure, and then I have additional units of measure based on sales and purchasing. I have some physical inventory settings that I can also put on this screen that allow me to control my ABC code, which we talked about. If I had checked the fixed ABC code here, when you look at that ABC code process screen that we looked at earlier, you would see the checkbox for fixed ABC code would be locked in there, and you would not be able to update that. So there's a lot of strength in the screens and in the fields that you have available to you to control the items. I have a price cost info, so I can set a price class and a price group and price managers so that I can control how pricing is handled for different customers and different scenarios. I can drill down on those and I can look at what my price classes are, and then I can assign that price class to a particular item. I can identify whether or not an item is subject to commission. I can have markup percentages, default price, MSRP. And then I also have costs. So I have a pending cost, my standard cost, what my last cost is. I have warehouse details, so I have information that can be warehouse specific. For instance, what my quantity on hand is in that particular warehouse. I can have a preferred vendor that is different for multiple warehouses. I can assign seasonality for a warehouse, so I may have an overflow warehouse that only gets inventory in the summer when it is my peak season. I can set service levels, which allow me to help drive what my customer service level is and what my reorder points and safety stock are. My brain paused there for a moment. I apologize. I have vendor details, so I can set up default vendors that I buy this information from and these items from, and what their purchase unit of measure is. So some people I may buy by the case, some I may buy by the Gaylord or a box or eaches, and I can control what those prices are so that I can see who I'm getting the best price from and when I bought it from them last. I have attributes, so I can control specific attributes for an item. I can customize those attributes, so if I have a very detailed set of information for an item and I want to be able to capture all of those data points, I can set up attributes and list all those attributes. I can upload images and I can store an image. I can store just about any kind of document. For instance, I can drop any type of an image or a document into this particular item. All you have to do is click and drag and drop, and you'll notice that I have multiple files set up attached to this item now. So if I click on that file, as you can see that I have the powerade JPEG, which was the one that we saw in the attributes tab. And then I also just dropped in my headshot, which you can see on our website as well. But it's very easy to drag and drop documents in there. So if you have design documents or JPEGs or specifications for an item, all of that information can be attached directly to an item, and it's easily accessible wherever that item is. And you can see how many files you have attached to that in the upper left-hand corner. One of the other elements that's nice is that if you drill down into this, if you want to see that you have anything attached to that, this attachment icon will change colors and it will show that you have a page in there. So you can see what items have files attached to them. You can browse through all those items down here as well. And you can see which ones have attachments and have files and which ones don't. So it's very easy to see whether an item has an attachment or not. So there are also non-stock items. So stock items are items that you typically would have in your warehouse, that you are making something or that you're purchasing and you are selling those or using them as raw materials to make a finished good. Non-stock items are more along the lines of a service or supplies. So these are items, or labor, for instance. These are different ways to be able to use an item to process sales orders, um, and be able to capture that movement as an item, but as a non-stock item. So you'll notice when I drill down on a non-stock item, like case labor, that there are different tabs up here. So it's different tabs. I don't have quite as much information. I can still attach files. I can have an expanded description that is basically an unlimited data field. I have general settings that I can put in. I still have item class, but you'll notice that you don't have, say, lotted items. So a non-stock item would not be something that you would lot. It would have a value. So a non-stock item could have a value if it's a service. I have cross-references, so I can tie that non-stock item to vendors or customers. So in most circumstances, in other systems that I've seen, you can set up items and you can make them non-stocked and non-controlled. When you have a non-stock item or a stock item, Acumatica allows certain actions and processes to be available for non-stock items and stock items that are different. And you can put non-stock items and stock items on the same order, and you can print invoices or order acknowledgments with those blended items, and the system is designed to handle them differently so that everything shows up correctly for the customer. So there's a lot of power in having stock items and non-stock items. So you also have warehouses and locations. So I can set up multiple warehouses, and I can move inventory through those warehouses through inventory transfers. I have a retail warehouse, vendor warehouse, wholesale warehouse. I can click on those warehouses, and then within those warehouses, I can have locations. So I've also heard warehouses and locations be referred to as locations and bins, for instance. The standard, as far as I've seen in the market, is that a warehouse is typically a physical structure or an area within a physical structure, and a location is a space within that physical warehouse. So you can see that these are basically racks and locations within the building. So these are the places that I have available within this warehouse to store material. And it gives me a much greater level of control to know where to go to find items within that facility. You have location entry, so allow on-the-fly entry. I can add items to locations on the fly. I can name it. I can make them active. I can freeze inventory when a physical count is in data entry state, so it won't allow anybody to move inventory if I have that particular location set up as a physical count at that time. You'll also notice that I have actions and reports. You'll see that you have actions and reports at the top of almost every menu, and as we move forward, we'll look more into what those actions and reports can do for you. There are quite a few reports and inquiries out here as well. So I wanted to show you that you can look at your inventory summary within a inquiry. And I can look at that, a powerade item. And within that inventory summary, you can see what warehouse it's in, what location it's in, how much I have available for issue, allocated, on a sales order booked or a sales order prepared, sales order shipped. I can see inventory issues, receipts. So pretty much all of the inventory transaction movement that I could have for an item, I can see within that inventory summary. I can also look at an inventory transaction summary. So I can look at inventory transaction summary. I can look at inventory transactions by account. So for instance, if I want to go look at an inventory transactions by account, I can put in my inventory account number, which is my inventory asset. I can go look at a specific period, and this is demo data, so we're going to go back a little bit. And I can see all of the inventory detail that I have. So these are all of the transactions that occurred in that period for that inventory account. One of the very nice elements of Acumatica is that I have the capability to export that right out to Excel if I choose to. So you can see that you can click the Excel button, and just in any inquiry, that Excel button is available, and it will automatically export that out to Excel and give me a file. You will see that it is a nicely formatted file when it opens. And then you can manage this as you would any other Excel file. So this is a nice portable Excel file. It allows you to communicate that to other people. You can see that it captures the parameters that were used as well when this report was run, so that you know exactly what you're looking at, what the periods were, what account was run, and what period it was against. So that Excel capability is throughout the system and allows you to be able to export that detail and then either analyze it or communicate it to other people very easily. So from an inventory perspective, you can see that there are a lot of elements to it. You have physical inventory, you have processes, I have transactions, I have my profiles to set up information, and I have various reports that I can run. I also have my preferences so that I can control lot serial classes and ABC codes as we looked at earlier. So there's a lot of power within the inventory module. But in the essence of time, I'm going to go ahead and move forward with purchase orders. So typically, once you create an item, the way you get it into your building is to go buy it. So if I'm buying raw materials, I would go into my purchase orders, and I would drill down on my purchase orders. So, for instance, in this circumstance, I have purchase order 775. So purchase order 775 is on hold. If you go back and look at this, you can see that the status is on hold. I have an order quantity of 1,900. I have an open quantity of 1,900, which means that I haven't received any of that in yet, and it hasn't been billed either. So I have an unbilled quantity and an unbilled amount. So I can drill down on that particular order, and I can see that I have two items on that order. I have widget 1 and I have widget 3. I can see what warehouse that I'm going to receive those into when they come in, and I can see my cost details, what my unit cost and what my extended cost is. I can go up and I can print this, so I have some options. I can look at vendor details. I can print the purchase order. So once again, that's going to bring up a very similar screen to what we saw with the sales order that we looked at earlier, and I have the send capability, print capability, or I can export that. So I could export this out to a PDF and send it as well. So the back button takes me right back to this particular order. One of the things that I'd like you to notice is that because this is on hold, if I went to purchase receipts, I actually wouldn't see that this is here. I haven't received anything against that particular item yet. I can only see orders that I have received, and it's on hold. So if I wanted to take that off hold, it's as simple as clicking on the hold checkbox, which puts it into pending approval status. Then I have actions, and I can go up and approve or reject this. So from a control perspective, you can have users that are allowed to create purchase orders, but only in a hold status. And then you can have a second step where another user is your approver. And that user can go in and provide the approval. You can now see that I have an approve checkbox here and that it is no longer on hold. So at this time, if I wanted to, I could go ahead and enter a PO receipt for this item. I can click on Enter PO Receipt. It brings up my receipt. I get a new receipt number. It shows me that it is in balance, and I can go through the process of receiving inventory. I can add additional lines. I can add PO lines. I can click on purchase orders to add additional purchase orders to this particular receipt, or I can go through the process of actually receiving the item. I like it. So it's telling me that I don't have a vendor reference. So it's telling me that I can't have that empty. So there are a lot of controls from the preferences perspective that you can control what has to be put in there. I spelled my own name wrong. So from a release perspective, from an actions perspective, I can apply assignment rules, I can print reports, I can print the purchase receipt, and then I can go through the entire process. I can also return from here. So there are a lot of capabilities within this, and as you can see that it's all controlled, and I can bounce between the various aspects of this particular order and see all of my information. Obviously, everything that's blue is hot linked, as it is in any web-based system. I can change that from a grid to a form view. And once again, I could actually export this out to Excel if I choose to. So there are a lot of capabilities. One of the other elements that I can do from that receipt is that I can go to enter a AP bill. So if I have an order, I can go directly into enter AP bill. So I have to receive it first. So as you go through the process to receive, you then have the capability. And I stepped outside of my script, and I decided to start getting errors. I didn't receive it all the way. So it is a nice feature to be able to go into straight to enter AP bill. I haven't received that item, and I'm hitting close to my allotted time, so I'm not going to go through the process of doing that. But it is a nice feature to be able to take a purchase order and go straight into entering an AP bill. So sales orders are also a very powerful module. I have sales orders that allow me multiple sales order types. You can see that I have quotes, I have sales orders. I can go into a sales order and look at the various types of order types that I can create. A return for credit, quote, invoice, credit memos, cash sales. So there are a lot of different order types that allow me to process orders. I can go in and create a sales order. I can create a sales order for, say, borders, for instance. It's going to default to that location, and I can create an order for our powerade item. And I can order 100 of those. So sales orders are very quick and easy to enter. You can see that I now have an order in here for that. I can see what my order total is. I can drill down on that order. I can email that order as a sales quote. I can print it and send it that way as well. I can go straight into create a shipment. I have the ability to go in and create allocations for this. So if this is a lotted item, and if I wanted to specifically allocate a lot to this item, I could go in and allocate a specific serial lot. So I can create an allocation for a specific lot, and now that lot and that 100 is already allocated to this order. So when we go to create the shipment, it will pull that specific lot. Under actions, you can see that I can create a purchase order from this particular item. So if it's a drop ship, for instance, I can create a purchase order directly from this customer order and then have the vendor ship that to my customer. A transfer order, so if this particular item is stored in a separate warehouse and I want to transfer it into the warehouse that I'm going to ship it from, I can create a transfer order. I can place it on back order, or I can copy the order. So if I have a customer that likes to repeat ordering the same materials on a regular basis, I have the capability to just copy that order. Once again, I have the ability to print and send information to directly to customers. You can see that I have the same filter controls here that I showed earlier. So I can look at my sales orders, or I can look at all records. My sales orders would be if I'm a salesperson and I have a salesperson code tied into my sales orders so that I can see just the orders that I'm responsible for. You could also put, if you have customer service reps and you wanted to control that based on a code that is that customer service rep, then they would only be able to see their orders if they look at my sales orders. Obviously, those filters were configurable, as you saw, and you can control what you see there. You can drill down on orders and create shipments directly from this particular window. I can tell it that I'm going to ship it out of that warehouse and when I'm going to ship it. And then I can process the shipment. It'll show me the ship quantity, the order quantity. I can put the information in as far as what my shipment number is and what date that I'm shipping it and the shipped quantities. And then I can confirm the shipment, so that order is actually gone now. And the inventory has been released. So I had 6630 before, now I have 6530. One of the other elements that I wanted to show you is that you have inquiries and you have reports. So an inquiry opens up a screen that gives me a grid and has some filters at the top, and it allows me to interact with that particular data. A report really is just that. I can run an inventory balance report. I can select a template if I have created a template. I can put in an inventory ID so that I can look at a particular item, and then I can run a report. So you can create templates for reports, you can define what they look like, and then you can have reports that you can print. Depending on what you're doing with it, if you're going to take it and walk around with it, obviously a report makes sense. Whereas if you're going to be on a computer and interacting with the information, the inquiry makes more sense. So you have both capabilities between an inquiry and reports. I can go into inquiry, for instance, for customers, and I can go look at customers. So let's go look at a bartender, USA Bartending School. And I can look for that customer, all of the orders that I have out there for that particular customer. So that is a quick and dirty high-level view of the distribution module and inventory purchases and sales orders within that.
All right. Thank you, Jonathan. We do have a good chunk of questions here, so we'll go ahead and jump into those in no particular order. But everyone, thank you to those who have submitted any questions, and again, feel free to continue submitting those. So, Jonathan, the first question related to something you were showing probably about 5 minutes ago. What was a transfer order?
Transfer order. So if I was in my sales orders and I went into an open order, and you wanted to create a transfer order. So a transfer order allows me to transfer materials from basically from one warehouse to another. So I can go through that process, and I can identify what item that I need to transfer. So our AA powerade item we only had in our retail warehouse. So if I wanted to transfer that, I create a transfer order from our retail warehouse to the wholesale warehouse. It's going to create an order and an order number and an order type, and then I can process that. And it will create an order for me. So basically, it's designed to move inventory from one facility to another.
Okay. Next question is, how flexible is the unit of measure, and can it do conversions for me?
So for each item, you have your base unit of measure. So every item is required to have a base unit of measure. You can also have a sales unit of measure and a purchase unit of measure, and then you can have multiple levels of conversion. So I can convert my from unit, I can convert from a box, I can multiply, and I can say that I have 12 eaches in each box. So I can create all of those different levels for my box, case, if I receive it in gallons, but store it in eaches. Sometimes it's in pounds. I may receive it in pounds, but store it in eaches, depending on if it's in individual bags. I have customers that receive in a pallet of raw material, which is in bags, but that pallet is ordered and received in pounds. So you can create as many levels of conversion with conversion factors that you need.
Okay, very nice. Next question, we've got, can we adjust the valuation method by inventory item?
You can. So it is right here. I can go in and I can change the valuation method. From a financial perspective, you're going to have some things that you want to know. Obviously, you can't change it if you have inventory on hand already because it was received in at a specific cost and a cost method. So if I'd have to have an item set up with no inventory in it for me to be able to change that. So you can have some items that are standard cost and some items that are average cost or last cost.
All right. Next question, we've got, how customizable are the screens, and can I add fields to further define my items?
So it's not something that an end user would be capable of doing, but you do have some level of customization that you can do. It's pretty dynamic when it comes to being able to add fields and add elements to screens. You can go as far as creating entirely custom screens that hit custom tables that are built directly into the Acumatica interface. We have a customer that has created basically an entire module independent of what they can buy out of the box to manage animals. They bring in animals and they have controls for those animals, and then they have product that come out of those animals, and they use a completely defined process for that was all custom.
All right, very good. Next question, does Acumatica have all the table fields Macola does, such as user-defined and notes, etc.? We use those fields extensively and would need to transfer all the data. So can data be pulled into and linked to Microsoft Access?
Well, you wouldn't necessarily need to pull it into Access. So the data fields, Acumatica has more data fields available. So user-defined fields would probably flow into attributes. Notes fields, there's actually, your notes fields were kind of restrictive within Macola. So if you look at the description here, I can pull pretty much an unlimited amount of notes into this description grid. So that table is available, and you can map notes into those fields. Algorithm is in the process and very far down the road in creating a conversion utility to take Macola data and put it into Acumatica from a master data perspective, and we're even pursuing coming up with methodologies for you to be able to do inquiries against your historical Macola data that we would bring over into views and allow you to look at that within an Acumatica inquiry. So you'd be able to look at historical Macola data in an Acumatica screen. So from an attributes and a packaging and a field perspective, I believe that there is nothing that you can put in a Macola table that you can't import or move into an Acumatica table.
All right, very convenient. Next question we've got, hi, I saw some unit of measure conversions there on the general settings. Would I be able to sell to different customers in different units of measure? Like if one customer buys is each and another buys in cases, could Acumatica handle that? That's an issue in some other legacy ERP systems.
Yeah, so you would tie it to say a customer part number, and let's put that to a bartender. So I can put in their item number for that, and I can put what their unit of measure is. So that particular item only comes in a box and in each, and I can convert that with that cross-reference for that customer. So yes, I have that capability within this.
Okay. We've actually got a follow-up question to the previous question about table fields in Macola and Microsoft Access. So the question is, can you pull and link data into Microsoft Access? We have hundreds of objects in Access that we use all the time.
So your challenge there is that if you have Acumatica installed on-premise, then you will have access to SQL and to the database. If you have Acumatica installed in the cloud, you will not have access to the database tables.
Understood.
So I have this instance that you're looking at is a cloud-based instance, but I also have Acumatica installed locally. And with Acumatica installed locally, so technically it's what would be considered an on-premise installation, I have access to the Acumatica database or databases that I have set up on my particular workstation, and I have access to all of their tables. So for instance, if we were looking at the items and I wanted to look at the item master, I would look at my IN inventory item table, and you would have access to that. And you'd be able to link to that through ODBC the same way you would any other item.
Okay. Just a couple more questions here. Thank you again, everyone, for these. Is there an easy way to see what table a field is stored in?
Yeah, so that would probably help the individual that asked the other question about linking things in Access. If I go to customization and click the inspect element option, I can then click on a field, and it will tell me what control type it is, what my data class is, and the data class is your table, what that data field is, and if there's a view that it's associated to. So yes, I have the capability to go look at that information, and then I can customize the business logic wrapped around that field, and I can view in multiple methods. So from a trying to identify where information is coming from perspective, I have a lot of capabilities as far as that's concerned.
Okay, perfect. This looks like it's our final question here. That is, can you associate projects to sales orders or purchase orders?
Yes. So I'm not sure if anybody noticed when we were in here, but You can create projects, and projects can be associated to customer orders and to sales orders. So if I go into an open sales order, I can go in and associate a project to that. And then I can do project level accounting. I can apply information to those projects. And if I go look up a project, I can see what orders and what purchase orders have been associated to that particular project.